Hello everyone. Today, we are going to explore a fundamental question. What is law, and what does a truly just law look like? To understand this, I'm going to share a fascinating historical story with you. So, sit back, relax, and let's dive in. Once upon a time, in a distant kingdom, there lived a powerful and highly resolute ruler named King Arthur. King Arthur was renowned not only for his brilliant mind, but for his absolute, unwavering respect for the law. Now, in this particular kingdom, the royal court had a very unique habit. Everyone, from the court ladies to the high-ranking ministers, absolutely loved chewing betel nut. But there was a messy problem. You see, when preparing the betel wraps, people would scoop up the liquid lime with their index fingers, and after popping the wrap into their mouths, with nowhere else to wipe their messy lime-covered fingers, they started wiping them right on to the Grand Palace pillars. Just imagine that. The magnificent, majestic pillars of the royal palace, completely covered in ugly white lime stains. King Arthur could not tolerate this eyesore. So he issued a fierce, uncompromising decree. From this day forth, no one shall wipe lime on the palace pillars. Anyone caught doing so shall have their hand severed. A bit harsh, right? But well, that is exactly how ancient laws used to be. Once this decree was announced, the terrified courtiers became incredibly cautious. They made absolutely sure never to touch the pillars with lime again. Before long, the palace pillars were sparkling and pristine once more. But then, one quiet afternoon, King Arthur was walking through the halls when he spotted it. Right there, on a beautifully polished, sparkling pillar, was a fresh, white streak of lime. The king was furious. "Sir Albert, come here at once." "Yes, your majesty, you called for me?" "Look at that pillar over there. I see a fresh lime mark. Tell me, you all remember my decree to sever the hand of anyone who defiles these pillars, do you not?" "Yes, your majesty, we remember it perfectly." "Good. Then find the culprit immediately and see to it that they face justice. Go, now." Sir Albert stood there, trembling with fear, but summoning every ounce of his courage, he bowed low and spoke up. "Forgive me, your majesty. Please hear me out first. Just last week, right after the royal council adjourned, while your highness was enjoying your royal betel nut, you zone out and inadvertently wiped the lime onto that very pillar with your own right index finger. We have indisputable proof of this. I speak of this treason only out of absolute loyalty to the truth, your majesty." The king froze. He was utterly shocked. "What? Is that so? Well then, if that is the case, my own index finger must be severed to pay for this crime." The ministers immediately panicked, throwing themselves to the floor. "Mercy, your great king, please spare yourself. This decree was meant for ordinary citizens, not for the ruler of the realm. For you, we all completely, wholeheartedly forgive." "Silence!" King Arthur cut them off. "Just because I am the king, I should be exempt from the very law I created. What a disgraceful stain that would be on our history. Enough talking. Servant, bring me a basin and hand me my royal sword." Immediately. Right there, in front of the entire assembly, King Arthur upheld the sanctity of his own law. Without a single moment of hesitation, he brought the blade down and cleanly severed his own index finger. Think about that, my friends. King Arthur's act of punishing himself without making a single exception, is deeply respectable. It is the ultimate historical symbol of equality before the law. But for a law to be truly just, it must do more than just apply to everyone. It must actually protect the majority of the people. To contrast this, you have probably heard of the famous Code of Hammurabi from ancient Babylon. It is celebrated as one of the oldest written legal codes in human history. But was it truly just? Let's take a closer look. First of all, the Code of Hammurabi was heavily flawed by extreme class discrimination. It was designed almost exclusively to protect the wealthy feudal lords and ruling elites. For the poor and the lower class, true rights simply did not exist. For instance, if a poor man accidentally severed the hand of a wealthy lord, that poor man would face the brutal penalty of having his own hand cut off. This is where we get the classic legal concept of an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. If a slave gouged out the eye of a nobleman's son, that slave's eye would be gouged out in return. But here is the shocking twist. If a poor man accidentally severed the hand of a wealthy lord, that poor man would face the brutal penalty of having his own hand cut off. This is where we get the classic legal concept of an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. If a slave gouged out the eye of a nobleman's son, that slave's eye would be gouged out in return. But here is the shocking twist. If a wealthy lord tortured and abused a slave until that slave died, the Code of Hammurabi had absolutely no provision to punish the lord. He walked away completely free. Do you see the massive difference now? The Code of Hammurabi may be famous, but it was a double-standard system based entirely on social status. A true law, just like the one illustrated in King Arthur's sacrifice, demands that whether you are a powerful king or a penniless commoner, you must stand completely equal beneath it. Any legal system that treats the elite with leniency and the poor with severity is not a law at all. It is merely a weapon used by tyrants. In a just society, the law must act as a grand umbrella, sheltering and protecting every single citizen equally. Thank you so much for listening today. We will see you next time